Welcome back, everybody, to another thrilling episode of Thrivesty Program with Coach 2J. This is your host, Jeremy Jones. And today we're going to talk about why we want people to look up their old scores and why it's important for logging, as well as some tips on wall balls. So, if we don't point out that these workouts repeat, people are not going to want to log it, right? So we want to make sure that workouts repeat enough on a regular basis. And so, just so you guys know, I will repeat workouts. Generally, there's about 1 to 3 new workouts per week, so about on average about 2. And then the rest of the workouts are workouts that I've programmed in the last 15 years. Now, usually it's going to be there's usually 2 sort of benchmark workouts. So I have a list of about 100 that I repeat regularly. Some show up, 3, maybe no more than 4 times a year. Usually 2 or 3 times a year, and then some workouts show up about once a year, and then some a little bit less. Then the other workouts are workouts that we've done in the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, that are just your standard workouts. And so we're repeating, again, 5 out of 7 workouts. And that is so that, especially after people have been with you for 3 to 6 months, they'll start to see the same workouts, and they'll be able to see how far they've come. And so if people, at minimum, if they're at least logging their competition on the competition days, they will see that benefit, and it will motivate them to keep coming, being consistent, maybe even like working on their diet or other parts of their lifestyle to try to continue to PR. And so it's not something that everyone's required to do. You don't want to make it a reason why someone quits is because you argue with them about logging. But it's really important that we create as many opportunities for people to log for a purpose of seeing how far they've come. And it's also really important why we want people to log early on, right? So a lot of people don't want to log early because they're like, oh, I suck so bad, why would I write anything down? And you're like, no, this is so we can see your progress. Let's start getting in the habits now so that you can start getting all these awesome wins in the next 3 to 6 months. All right, so we've got our warm up here, and then we're gonna do some hip activation, and then we're skipping the skill practice warm up today because we're gonna be doing 5x5 back squats at a pretty significant load. Especially if it's a box squat. So 5x5 box squat is going to be very exhausting for people. Once again, when you're doing the box squats, you want to subtract about 20%. So people should be using, excuse me, about 55 to 65% of their back squat max, or 10, 20 pounds more than they used on the last 5x5 they did. We want to make sure that people have ample rest time. So if we finish the hip mobility at about 10 after, then we're going to easily have 25, maybe even 30 minutes to get through this. So that would put us at 40 after when we finish the ring rows and the back squats, and then we'll have 20 minutes to get through the Metcon. So we can spend a little bit of time coaching it, and people won't feel super rushed. You might want to, on this one, as a reminder, it's good to set the timer. You might, again, people should be fairly familiar with the movement. You still want to be coaching these movements, even though we are, many weeks into the strength focus. You still want to be saying, going into details about the box and giving people very specific information about their particular squat and what they're struggling with to make sure that they understand what the next thing they should be fixing or correcting or trying to focus on when they lift. But you might, again, you do some coaching and then set the clock and say, okay, at 25 minutes, we're going to be done. So you spend 5 minutes set up and coaching, and now they know, okay, well, I need to do about 1 set every 4 or 5 minutes, right? And so then that way they have plenty of rest. And that would be pretty excessive, but if someone's moving a significant load, and again, you do a little bit of coaching first, starting each set of squats at 5 minutes, every 5 minutes, should give them plenty of time to rest. All right, then we're going to do You Be Illin, which is, and I named this workout. It's an old school CrossFit workout. 5 rounds of 12 wall balls, 12 toes to bar. 12 wall balls isn't a lot, but 12 toes to bar gets hard pretty fast. And so I like this one because it's very approachable for people, and again, even for people who can just maybe their max set of toes to bar is 8 or 10. They can still get this workout done in a decent amount of time by breaking it up a lot. So again, with wall balls, we always want to make sure that people are, they're catching the ball, and you might want to point out that the wall ball is much more of a front squat or a goblet squat. So they're going to grab that ball and then they're going to have that upright torso. If people are standing too far from the wall, what we tend to see is they catch the ball, and then they're holding it here, and then their squat ends up looking more like this, right? So they end up doing like more of a forward leaning torso, and it's going to blow up their low back. This is also a lot harder on the, we're going to be more fatigued because they're having to hold the ball up with their arms, versus somebody who's maybe a little bit closer to the wall, and then they can hold the ball in a more upright position, and then their squat looks a lot better, like a front squat. And so we're going to be able to use the skeleton as a framework to help hold the ball instead of using our muscles. And so it's really important to point this out to people, is that we don't want them catching and leaning over on the wall balls, because this is mechanically a lot harder. Probably not super dangerous, but it will cause people's backs to start blowing up, and then that could be dangerous, so they start rounding their back on these squats. And as I've mentioned in other videos, they should be holding the bottom of the ball. So if I were to draw this, their hands should be on the bottom of the ball, right? So their fingers will be like this, and their thumbs here, and then their arms like this, if that makes sense. Elbow, right? And instead of squeezing the sides of the ball, so we don't want to be holding the sides of the ball. The hands should be on the bottom of the ball, because that lifts the ball up. If you can imagine that the same person was holding the ball on the sides, the ball would be this high, right? And that means they lost this distance at the release point, and that means they have to exert that much more energy to get it up there. The other thing is if we can flip our fingers and our wrists at the top, like we're shooting a basketball or setting a volleyball, that the mechanics that we can add energy to the ball by flipping our wrist, which will usually get it up another 6 or 7 inches with the same amount of energy that it would if we were holding on the sides. And holding the sides of the ball, we're squeezing the ball, which makes us more tired. So just make sure people understand that release is really important, and where they're supporting the ball. Now for this workout, most people should probably shoot to do the wall balls unbroken, and then break up the toes to bar according to how they're feeling technique-wise. It's also really important that they don't shred their hands, but this one shouldn't be too much of a hand shredder unless it's really hot or they're going really fast. So just make sure that you point out to people that breaking up toes to bar doesn't usually cost a lot of time or energy, because you're going to come down anyway. Dropping off the bar and jumping right back up again isn't that hard. It doesn't slow you down. It's not like having to clean the bar back up to a thruster position or something like that. And so doing small, fast sets is usually going to keep you moving and protect the hands, and you'll still get a good score. And of course there's a cash out here for people who don't feel like they got enough out of this, or there is a hypertrophy for people who want a little more muscular development. Just remember that when people are doing the hypertrophy, they should be doing these they should select loads or movements that they can do unbroken. Again, I'm usually kind of in that 10 to 15 rep range. For some of these other movements, it's a little bit higher, but we want them to really sort of feel the burn. They should be approaching within a rep or two of failure, if not going to failure on these movements, and they should be doing them in unbroken sets. But they shouldn't be rushing it like a mecon. They should be taking rest between the movements. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot, and thrive on.